Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Schools. My name is Mike Looney. I'm the school superintendent for Fulton County. It's a pleasure to be with Marvin Dereef, the district's chief financial officer. Mr. Dereef, welcome to Let's Talk Schools this morning.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself. You're the chief financial officer, which means what? And how long have you been with the district?
Well, yes, I'm the chief financial officer, which means I help assist, play a major role in help managing the funds for the district. I've been with Fulton County Schools for 12 years, 12 wonderful years.
Well, thank you for your service, and I know that your job is tremendously important. You help make sure that the taxpayers' dollars are spent wisely, prudently, and efficiently. And so, how large is Fulton County Schools' budget?
Fulton County Schools, we have several types of budgets. Our general fund budget, which is our operation budget, is estimated to be $1.1 billion, especially for the FY23 school year.
B with a billion, with a B,
billion. Yes,
not
sir.
a million. $1.1 billion. And now that does not include federal dollars or grant dollars or anything like that?
That doesn't include federal or capital funds. For our capital program, we have a 5-year program that we established, which is over $900 million over the course of 5 years. And with our special revenue funds, which includes our federal funds and some of our state grants, federal grants, and so forth, especially with the latest funds that we're receiving to help us recover from COVID, put us well over $200 to $300 million when it comes to special revenue funds.
And we historically, as a school district under your leadership, have had very good audit reports. I know that just recently we were presented with audit results, so congratulations on another really fantastic audit report to you and your staff. I know our taxpayers are grateful for your oversight. Let's talk about the budgeting process. Just like families have to budget their money at home, school districts have to budget the money that they have to make sure the money goes far enough and is used wisely. So talk to us about the budget process and the timeline associated with budgeting for Fulton County Schools.
Yes, thank you. As I like to say, this is budget season for us, and it is a process, as you mentioned, and it starts in October. And the good part about a budget process is how we interact with and have all of our employees and leadership involved in the process. So it begins with our school board. Our school board sets the budget calendar as well as the budget parameters. And those budget parameters really give guidance and direction for the administration on how to develop the budget in preparation of the school board approving or adopting the budget in June. So the process starts as early as October and ends in June. And in between, there's a lot of presentations that we bring forth to the board and the public to give them an understanding of where we are with the budget process. There's also there's 2 budget public hearings to give the public an opportunity to come before the board and express their opinions regarding the budget. We also make sure that during the process that we post all the information on our website, as well as we send out great communication from our communication department on where we are with the budget development process and the things that impact us during the process. So it starts in October, ends in June, and in between, so once again, you have the budget calendar, the school allotment guidelines. So for us, there's a couple of components. The school allotment guidelines is the formulas that the board has approved and validated to say this is how you allocate to our schools. We have roughly 100 plus schools that we allocate through a formula, and the principals then take those allocations and develop their budgets. While they're doing that, on the department side, our departments are developing their budget requests. And we have a process that we call the modified zero-based budgeting process. They start basically from zero. And the key thing is, we want you to budget what are your needs? What do you need for the upcoming school year? And then once they develop those recommendations, they bring it all forth to cabinet. We consolidate this information, have a discussion with you, the superintendent, on where we are looking at our revenue forecast versus the expenditure request. And you make the important decisions on what's priority and what needs to move forward as a recommendation to the board. That happens actually in April. So next month, we will be bringing that consolidated recommendation to the board. And then we give as I mentioned before, we give the public an opportunity in May to have those public hearings to express, how they feel about the recommendation before the board do a tentative vote at the second board meeting in May and have that final vote in June.
So I know that the budget book that you've given me is about 4 inches thick, and with reams, it seems like reams and reams of line items in the budget, but you talked about zero-based budgeting. So let me make sure that I understand it and can communicate it accurately as the superintendent. Just because something was in the budget in a previous year doesn't automatically mean that it's going to be in an upcoming budget. We start from zero, we assess the needs of the district, and then add expenses or budget items to make sure that we are spending the taxpayers' money as wisely as possible. Is that a fairly accurate description of what we do?
That is accurate. That is accurate.
So one common question that school districts get, superintendents and board members get, is how much of the budget is dedicated to schools, to teachers and administrators, to school operations versus overhead from the district?
Well, great question, Mike. One of the parameters that the board set back in October was they want to make sure that when we're developing the budgets, at least, at minimum, 75% of the general fund budget is allocated directly to schools. In recent years, we've maintained at least, I think this year, based on where we are right now, 78% of the general fund budget is being allocated to schools. So we're exceeding that threshold by recommending even more to our schools.
I know in my former district it was 65%. So that the fact that we're at 78% speaks volumes to the board's budget priorities and staff's ability to make sure that the dollars that we receive actually are going to schools. Can you speak to how much of the budget is related to human beings, to personnel? I know that's a major budget factor.
Yes. On average, 85 to 87% of our budget is allocated directly to personnel, and that's salary and benefits. And that's typical for districts. Most of what we do requires people. So we allocate about 85 to 87% of our budget in total goes towards personnel.
So we're in the people business, yes, and our work depends on employees supporting students and families in the learning and teaching process. Well, it sounds like this district has some real established priorities and routines to make sure the taxpayer is getting a lot of bang for the bucks that they invest. Let me ask you this. We get money from local taxes, we get money from the state, the QEB formula, and then we get money from the federal government. What does that distribution look like? And I know that just recently, if you don't mind, talk about the fact that what we're getting from the state continues to go down, yes, and what they call the local fair share continues to go up. Why is that? And so can you talk about the distribution of funds broadly, and then talk about the local fair share and why that continues to change?
Yes, when we look at our general fund budget, which is once again, our operational budget, most of our budget is around the general fund. We are a district where the majority of our general fund budget, our revenue, comes from property taxes. Our local revenue budget is like 67, roughly around 65, 67%. And then the remaining is state funds. What we're seeing is so back in 1985 when they developed the QBE, the Quality Basic Education formula, the state said, look, that we believe that the local has a responsibility to share in the cost. And that's understandable. So they came up with the 80-20 rule, and that was statewide.
So the state's supposed to carry 80% of the burden, and local taxes are supposed to pay 20% of the burden?
20% of the burden. And how do they ensure that is through our millage rate. So they came up with an understanding that as long as we can get these districts to, at minimum, contribute 5 mills of their millage rate, of their property tax millage rate towards education. So 5 mills. And what happens is when they do the math statewide, the ideal is if it comes above 20% statewide, they will reduce their local fair share to ensure that only 20% 80% rule. Well, the issue is that some counties, some school systems in that math will end up contributing more than others. And in our case, we are continuously rising as it relates to our local fair share because the property value is going up. And so I think 3 years ago, we were at contributing 30% towards the QBE. So in other words, they figure out what the earning is and they deduct this local fair share from it, and that's what we receive. So we started off, like I said, 3 years ago at 30%. Now we're anticipating we're going to have to contribute 37%. So it's like a constant rise in what we're contributing or being reduced for as our state revenue of our earnings.
So the state is in effect penalizing Fulton County Schools because our property tax, or the value of our homes and our properties is increasing. And so they're sending less money to Fulton County Schools to fund schools with the expectation that the local taxes will cover the balance.
Yes.
So local costs are going up and state support is going down.
Yes.
That doesn't seem like a real sustainable model to me.
No, especially when we're a district where our enrollment is declining, meaning our FTE earnings. In the past, it wasn't as noticeable because we were on the rise. Our enrollment was going up, so our QBE earnings were going up, and it sort of offset the local fair share growth. Because we got to keep in mind, the local fair share has nothing to do with our enrollment. So even as we reduce our number of students, they are basically double penalizing us, right? We're losing on the QBE earnings side, but there's still the deduction on the local fair share is still rising.
Wow. Yeah. So we're going to run out of time here in just a few minutes. So I can't get to all the great things that we really want to talk about and I know that the public is interested in. But I have made a commitment to the board for the upcoming budget, the fiscal year 22-23 year budget. Yeah. And so we haven't advertised that yet, what my commitment has been. So why don't we break the news today? What is our current millage rate in Fulton County Schools, local taxes for schools?
Our current millage rate is 17.59.
17.59. And so I have made a commitment to the board that we are not going to increase local taxes despite the fact that the state expects us to and is reducing state level support, but instead we're going in the opposite direction. So break the news for the public.
We are recommending that our millage rate at minimum be at 17.49. So we're reducing it by 0.1. And that's significant. I know it sounds like when you say 0.1, but trust me, that's a significant number when it comes to property taxes.
And is this the first time that we've done it, or is this a pattern over the last couple of years?
This is a pattern over the last couple of years. We reduced the millage rate last year. So we continue, now we have a trend. You got 2 points there. So we have a trend of reducing the millage rate in recent years, which, by the way, we were already the lowest millage rate in the metro area. So this is,
Wait a second
this
now.
is good.
Something doesn't add up, Marvin. We have the lowest millage rate in the metro region area.
Yeah.
The state is expecting us to pay more. They're reducing what we're getting from the state. And we're decreasing the millage rate.
Yes, sir.
How is that possible?
Well, I would say it's through great leadership from our school board, being physically responsible over the years and making sound decisions about our finances. We are in great position as it relates to what our fund balance look like. We're in great position for is how we utilize our funds. And we do a great job at looking at it from the long term. We know where we are now and where we potentially will be in the next 4 to 5 years. So we know where our ebbs and flows, how far we can maybe dip, and then when we expect to go back up.
Awesome. So thank you so much for this information. I wish we had another hour or so to talk about this. Maybe I'll invite you back here soon. If the public wants to know more about Fulton County Schools' budgeting process, please visit our website or come to one of our school board meetings. They are all televised, and the minutes and documents that we share with the board are available directly on our website. Mr. Dereef, thank you so much for your intellect and your knowledge that you bring to the table and making sure that the taxpayers' money is spent wisely. Thank you for joining Let's Talk Schools. I look forward to seeing you again soon.